Americans remain on the edge of their seats as the presidential vote count continues into the morning. We'll have the latest. Plus, a look at which candidate is favored by 4 state counties and details on a deadly head-on crash involving a Joplin school utility vehicle.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 5 a.m. I'm Tanya Bach. Coming up this half hour, why it's been a comeback year for the Nevada high school football team. And the presidential election remains nail-bitingly close. And that's got some already calling for recounts. For something to talk about, we're asking if you think there should be recounts in the Battleground states. You can also participate in our Insta poll. Just visit KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. But first, a check on your forecast.
From the Freeman Health System sky camera, another mild morning, especially considering November weather should be upon us, and it's still 53 degrees. Big difference today, we are not going to have to fight the southerly wind. That's going to be welcome relief. Temperatures ranging anywhere from low to mid 50s. We're just going to freeze up right now. This is awesome. Anyway, hear me out. Sunny skies, 75 degrees, 5 to 10 miles per hour. That's our wind. Can't beat that. And another delightful, abnormally warm day. And we'll continue to carry that into the weekend. Still looking at the possibility of rain showers, but those aren't going to be here really from Monday into Tuesday.
All right, another beautiful day.
Ta-da!
There we go. It should be nice.
I'm going to let you talk election stuff. I'm going to sit down and have a stern talk with somebody.
Somebody that starts with a C, the computer.
She goes by Max Storm.
Oh.
And sometimes she just likes to look at me and be like, I don't care what you say, Michael.
Well, she has that right. All right, thanks, Michael. The race for the White House is still too close to call as vote counting continues in several key states. The Trump campaign is preparing for legal challenges while the president's path to re-election narrows. Joe Biden is projected to win 2 more battleground states, both Wisconsin and Michigan. That puts the former vice president within striking distance of the 270 electoral votes needed to win the presidency. North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Georgia are still considered toss-ups. Arizona and Nevada are leaning Democratic. Every county in our area favored President Trump. In this list, the counties with the highest percentage vote for the president are at the top. President Trump received more than 80% of the vote in 4 counties in our viewing area. Those were Barton County, McDonald County, Wilson County, and Woodson County. The highest former Vice President Biden reached in any area was 39% of the vote, and that was in Labette County. In Crawford County, Biden had 38%. While this presidential election may stand out to seasoned voters, for plenty of 4-staters, this was their first or second time voting for president. KOAM's Mike Mahoney spoke to members of the Pittsburgh State University College Republicans to get their thoughts.
As our nation waits for the results from the 2020 presidential election, a handful of things are clear. Those landslide predictions were off, and America remains a country divided.
I think this election just kind of reflects, right, some of those things, right? I mean, more competition, more polarization, but also as a consequence, right, higher turnout.
High voter turnout was certainly unique about this year's battle for the White House, but so is the fact that we still don't know the winner. That's not typical for the information age, but for many younger voters, including the PSU college Republicans, it was more weird than nerve-wracking.
I wouldn't say it was crazy, more just weird, because there really wasn't any big events, no big surprises in my opinion.
While many Americans were glued to their couches, these college Republicans were busy at the Jake LaTurner watch party.
I set my focus on the congressional race and the Senate race in the state, and then because I knew that the ballots wouldn't come in for the national race until probably later.
For the PSU college Republicans, there was more anxiety the day after Election Day, when Wisconsin and Michigan started to trend blue.
We were looking for answers, and we were giving our own theories on what was going on, what the Secretary of States for both those states were saying, what news media were saying. We're taking all that in and making our best guess.
I reached out to PSU's college Democrats for reaction as well, but they said because of the pandemic, they weren't doing face-to-face interviews. In Pittsburgh, Mike Mahoney, KOAM News.
While the Pittsburgh State University campus Democrats would not talk on camera, they did provide us with a statement saying, quote, We can't say much about the election at the moment as the situation is clearly still developing. We believe in the integrity of the election, the fact that every vote should be counted, and that results or victories should not be called until all votes are counted. A woman is dead after a crash involving a Joplin School District utility van. No passengers were in the van. It happened yesterday morning near Joplin's 20th Street Bridge, close to the high school. Police say 31-year-old Lauren Safley of Joplin was killed when her car crossed the center line and hit the van head-on. A passenger in her car and the driver of the van were both taken to the hospital. Authorities say her passenger is in critical condition. Two former Delaware County, Oklahoma jailers, Charles Hayes and Shelly Mayberry, plead guilty to charges that they tased inmates without just cause. Hayes pled guilty to 7 counts of assault and battery with a dangerous weapon. He gets a 7-year deferred sentence and is placed on probation. The court also ordered Hayes to pay more than $24,000 in fines and court costs. He's also barred from working in law enforcement or corrections for the time of the deferment. Mayberry gets a 5-year deferred sentence and probation for 2 of the 7 counts filed against her. She also cannot work in law enforcement or corrections. Well, living in a virtual world doesn't mean we can't be physically active, and that's the idea behind the Pittsburgh Parks and Recreation Department's OK Kids Day. Families can compete in several physical activities posted on the department's Facebook page. With each completed activity, families post a photo in the OK Kids Day Facebook event to be entered to win a grand prize. OK Kids Day is actually more than a day. The competition runs through November 14th.
To provide a multiple outdoor recreation atmosphere for the kids, providing the opportunity for youths to pair up with adults and to come together out into our community and to pretty much do outdoor activities.
It's 5:07.
All right, our day planner for today has us up into the 70s once again. Nice sunny skies. Nice, not going to have to fight the south wind like we have past couple of days. We're just going to go probably about 5 to 10 miles per hour. And look at that, light breeze from the south at 5 miles per hour there overnight. Gonna ride the 70s into the weekend, still looking at rain Monday into Tuesday.
That's a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News, the Nevada Tigers have had a pretty significant turnaround on the football field, and one player has been through it all. We'll hear from him. Plus, why the state of Wisconsin is already preparing for a recount. And an area kindergarten class gives a few tips on remaining patient during these tense times. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back.
The Nevada Tigers preparing for round 2 of the Missouri Class 4 football playoffs. Tigers won their first playoff game since 2017 last Friday. Our own sports director, Jacob Leonard, tells us how this year is not just a comeback year for the program, but also for one senior on the team.
Nevada senior Caden Denny is finishing his high school career the right way.
I'm very fortunate for it. Very fortunate that I got to finish this season.
Denny missed all of last season due to injury. He was on the sideline while the Tigers finished 0-10 overall.
I think that was tough on him to be unable to play and unable to do anything to help us.
It put me out, football and basketball, and then COVID ended track, so I didn't get to play single sport all last year. So I put in a lot of work in the weight room and outside of school to try and keep my speed, keep my size, you know. It was a long process. It was a really long process for me.
Denny is finishing his career on a high note. He rushed for 190 yards and 3 touchdowns last Friday, helping the Tigers win their playoff opener over Harrisonville.
I think he's one of those young men that has a once every 5 to 10 years talent. You know, he's got good speed. He's also a physical runner for his size, and he's just explosive.
The team is now 7-3 and in the district semifinals, 1 year after going winless. Coach Beechler credits Denny and the rest of the leaders on the team for the turnaround.
They keep practice upbeat. They keep it pretty intense. They police each other. We don't have to say a whole lot when practice starts to get a little bit flat. They pick it up on their own.
Being back on the field is already a success for Denny. Winning Friday and having a chance to play for a district title would just be icing on the cake.
I think it would mean a lot to everybody. I mean, I can't remember the last time Nevada's been to a district championship. I can't remember the last time they've been that far in the playoffs. So I think it'd mean a lot for Coach Beechler, for this team, and probably even more for the community.
In Nevada, Jacob Leonard, KOAM Sports.
Nevada faces off against Helias. That's up in Jefferson City. That game's going to be this Friday for a spot in the Class 4 District 6 championship game. Denver Broncos legend John Elway tested positive for COVID-19 Tuesday morning. The team's Hall of Fame quarterback and general manager is experiencing minor symptoms. Broncos say he is doing well. And President and CEO Joe Ellis has also tested positive for coronavirus. Like Elway, Ellis quarantining at his home continues to still work. Broncos say the cases appear to have originated independently outside of team facilities. Broncos say there were minimal close contacts identified for each, and that list does not include any players or coaches. Still to come on the KOAM Morning News, reaction from across the globe.
The world watches as the race for the U.S. presidency is decided. I'm Ian Lee with the reaction from America's partners overseas.
And to check on our 7-day forecast when the KOAM Morning News returns. Start with our weather almanac on this November 5th as we approach 5/17. Once again, we're going to cruise past our average high for this time of year. I know it's kind of hard to see, but you know, in Old Glory outside of Television City right there, when it is blowing, you can easily see it flapping in the wind. It's a good indicator that we don't have to fight that southerly breeze that we've been putting up with for the past several days. 53 degrees in the Freeman Health System sky camera. That wind, perfect, 7 miles per hour. We like that. And that cuts down on that elevated fire risk that we've had past couple of days as well. 47 in Oswego, 53 in Carthage, and 50 in Fort Scott. So we don't have to worry about the gust tracker. We just call it the old wind tracker. Directional wise, a little bit from the southeast instead of the south-southwest that we've had. But we like the fact that we're just seeing single digits. So for the bus stop forecast, we'll go with sunrise over Joplin at 6:47. Sunny and mild to begin with. Should be up into the 60s by the time we get into that 9 o'clock hour. As far as what we're looking at on the Skywatch Storm Tracker, a little bit of cloud cover just hanging on there throughout southeast Kansas and northeast Oklahoma. And everything, the heavier clouds that we had overnight now moving east of southwest Missouri, and they'll continue to move to the east. Once again, it's a very dry air mass, so no rain associated with any of that. We need some. We're now down for the year. Back and forth we go, but down for the year. Jet stream is starting to throw in a little bit of cooler air right here, but it's kind of blocked right at the Kansas-Nebraska state line. Doesn't quite make it from us. And then we've got this big trough down here in DFW. But like I said, as far as what we're looking at today, going to be sunny and mild. Even though the jet stream's kind of jockeying around us, not going to present us with any problems. All right, Ada, now a low-pressure system just still pummeling Central America. But what we're going to see is the reformulation, of tropical storm force as it approaches Cuba, and then wants to make its way toward South Florida as well. So by the time we get into early next week, probably Monday, very well could begin to see tropical storm warnings off the coast of Florida there in the middle of November. All right, so for our Thursday, highs in the mid-70s once again, and future track just kind of bland for the most part. We're not going to pick up any cloud cover. Very, very nice as we head into Friday. We'll throw some 70s up on there for Friday as well. Head into the weekend, still looking at rain late Sunday, and then really kind of picking up thunderstorm activity-wise on Sunday into Monday. Cold front then drops in as we go from the 70s on Tuesday all the way down to the 50s on Wednesday. Time now to turn our attention to the KOAM News Now Facebook page. President Trump's campaign suggesting it may ask for a recount in Wisconsin. State law allows for it if the margin is within 1%. Candidate, of course, has to cover the cost. As Tom Durian reports, election officials already getting the ball rolling.
When we do a recount, all the municipal clerks and all the municipalities, we have to kind of recreate the election.
And that is no easy task. There are 72 counties across Wisconsin and 1,850 municipalities within them. The data from all those places has to be recounted.
Luckily in Wisconsin, we do have those paper ballots, so we can run those paper ballots through those tabulating machines.
Yep, that's right. Just like on election night, in counties across the state, ballots would have to be refed through machines and tabulated all over again. For Waukesha County, that means you have to have hundreds of workers, dozens of machines, and a place big enough to work in.
You were preparing for this possibility before the president even said, or his campaign even said, that we might ask for a recount.
You know, we actually reserved the Expo Center space about a month ago.
Wisconsin is no stranger to recounts. In 2016, Green Party candidate Jill Stein asked and paid $3.5 million for a recount. In the end, the candidate's standing didn't change.
And we've had a recount before, and it showed that we have a really good process. We have a really good system.
President Trump's team has 3 days after the counties file official results with the state to request a recount. If it does make that request, the process is expected to take up to 2 weeks. Our question this morning on the KOAM News Now Facebook page and our Insta poll: should there be recounts in battleground states? Let us know why or why not, and take part in our Insta poll by going to KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. We'll be back with Health Watch next.
Topping Health Watch this morning, election years can be very stressful, especially now as people await results from a tight presidential race. But the key to stress relief might be patience. KOAM's Caitlin Shive spoke with a Webb City kindergarten teacher who takes us back to the basics.
We all learned at an early age to practice patience, but now more than ever that lesson rings true as we sit back and wait to hear the final results of the 2020 presidential election.
We have become a society that we get things immediate, and it's fantastic to have all that technology, but in the real world, we still have to wait our turn and we still have to practice that patience. And as adults, it's important for us to model that to our kids.
In stressful situations like waiting longer than expected for election results, we may be feeling frustrated or angry. Kindergarten teacher Karen Dingman says it's all about going back to the basics we learned as kids to help us deal with trying times.
There are a lot of things that will test our patience when we're driving down the road, when we're waiting our turn in a drive-through line or at a store to check out. There are plenty of opportunities to practice that patience, and the same skills that we teach our kindergartners are the skills that we need as adults too.
Deep breathing, distracting yourself with other things, and just simply walking around can help lessen those feelings of impatience. 5-year-old Kobe says he doesn't mind being patient, waiting for his turn on the playground or for show and tell, but it can be hard for him sometimes having patience with family.
What about when you're at home with your parents? Do you ever have to practice patience there? No?
A lot.
You do?
Yeah.
With what?
With my little nephew.
And even I got a lesson in patience, trying to connect with kids while they're preoccupied with toys.
Tell me maybe a story about when you've had to do that.
Almost everywhere I go.
Why's that?
Because when we get to a playground, whatever I get on, he gets on.
Really?
And whenever we play baseball, whatever I throw, he goes and just gets it.
How does that make you feel?
A tiny bit mad.
Really? Is that when you really have to be patient with him because he is younger than you?
Yes.
Patience and kindness go a long way. Being able to sit back and wait our turn and know that no matter what happens, it's going to be okay.
In Webb City, Caitlin Shive, KOAM News.
And you can find more on this story on our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. Well, a new review shows almost 20% of COVID-19 patients may only present with gastrointestinal symptoms. Those symptoms can include nausea, vomiting, loss of appetite, diarrhea, and pain. Researchers say radiologists doing abdominal scans should be vigilant during the pandemic. Every month, cancer treatment is delayed can increase a person's risk of death by around 10%. Canadian and UK researchers looked at the impact of delaying treatments such as surgery, chemotherapy, or radiotherapy for 7 types of cancer. They say understanding this is critical since some treatments are being postponed for patients during the pandemic. Women working in the paid labor force may have slow decline in memory later in life compared to women who do not work for pay, and that's according to a study in the journal Neurology. Researchers found this link regardless of whether a woman was single, married, or had children. That's a look at some of today's top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News.
High 40s, low 50s, certainly a delightful Thursday morning, and I think the great thing about today is we don't have to fight the wind. Doesn't mean we don't have a limited fire risk because of our low humidity, but certainly not as blustery as what we've encountered past several days. Probably when you get home, not going to have to pick up porch furniture. Not that I've had to do that. Day planner going to push us up into the 70s later on today. A lot of sunshine, and we're able to ride the 70s all the way through the rest of the 7-day and the weekend. Now, the big development's going to be from Monday into Tuesday. Number one, thunderstorms for Monday evening into Tuesday morning, and then a cold front on the backside of that'll eventually take us from a string of 70s down into the 50s. All the latest on the Skywatch weather app and more KOAM morning news right after this.
Americans remain on the edge of their seats as the presidential vote count continues into the morning. We'll have the latest. Plus a look at which candidate is favored by 4 state counties and details on a deadly head-on crash involving a Joplin school utility vehicle.
The 4 states most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 5:30. I'm Tanya Bach. Coming up this half hour, something to talk about this morning is about recounts. We want to know whether or not you think there should be a recount in battleground states. You can also chime in our Insta poll. All you have to do is visit KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. But first, a check on your forecast.
Live from the Freeman Health System Sky Cameras where we begin. 53 degrees, humidity already dropping down to 69%, but not as windy as what we've had. 50 in Miami, 51 in Lamar, 46 in Iola with sunrise on the bus stop forecast. Headed our way at 6:47 this morning. There's no worries for the kids. Skywatch Storm Tracker even pushing that cloud cover off to the east right there, as it's going to be another dry day across the entire Midwest. Jet stream's starting to take a little bit of shape up there in the Pacific Northwest, but not going to affect our temperatures for the next several days. So we'll ride 70s once again, keep the stringer rolling. Still got to go back to 2005 to find the last time we had a November kind of string of 7 to 8 days that we're experiencing right now. Highs in the mid-70s and future track, absolutely delightful, all the way into Friday morning where we're going to be off to another mild start and another day up in the 70s. We really don't have any big developments until we get from Monday night into Tuesday. Thunderstorm activity followed by a cold front. Going to go from 72 on Monday down to 56 on Wednesday.
Well, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Nevada, Arizona, North Carolina, and Alaska. Those are the 6 states yet to be called in the race for the White House. Neither Joe Biden nor President Trump have 270 electoral college votes needed to win. They are still counting votes in all these states, but the president wants them to stop in the ones where he is ahead. Leora Podesta has more from Washington.
Supporters of President Trump gathered outside a vote counting center in Maricopa County.
We're not trying to break in. We just like to watch you count the ballots.
The president trails former Vice President Joe Biden in Arizona, but there are still votes left to be counted. In Detroit, Trump supporters demanded Michigan officials stop working. The president had a lead on election night, but CBS News projects Biden won the state after legally cast mail-in ballots were added to the total.
And we are here to defend the right to vote.
Activists around the country marched through the streets yesterday.
It's our right to vote. All the votes must be counted for.
The Trump campaign is launching legal challenges in several states.
We're going to win Pennsylvania, but they're trying to cheat us out of it.
The president holds slim leads in both Pennsylvania and Georgia, but the remaining ballots, all cast on or before Election Day, come from Democratic-leaning areas.
In Pennsylvania, every vote is going to count.
CBS News projects that former Vice President Joe Biden is the presumptive winner in Wisconsin, but that lead is small enough that the Trump campaign is expected to ask for a recount.
We believe we will be the winners.
Speaking in Delaware, the former vice president looked past the election.
It'll be time for us to do what we've always done as Americans, to unite, to heal, to come together as a nation.
In addition to Arizona, Nevada is also leaning toward Biden. And with electoral votes from those 2 states, he would be right at the 270 needed to win. Leora Podesta, CBS News, Washington.
President Trump also currently leads in both North Carolina and Alaska. More results are expected to come in later this morning in all of the undecided races. Well, every county in our area favored President Trump. In this list, the counties with the highest percentage vote for the president are at the top. President Trump received more than 80% of the vote in 4 counties in our viewing area. Those were Barton County, McDonald County, Wilson County, and Woodson County. The highest former Vice President Biden reached in any area county was 39% of the vote, and that was in Labette County. In Crawford County, Biden had 38%. Leading up to Tuesday's voting, local party committees put in a lot of work trying to secure votes for their candidates. On the Republican side, the Southwest Missouri Republicans opened their office in Joplin in June. Southwest Missouri Democrats had worked just as long, and they're taking down signs now, and they'll make plans for the next election. Try to find candidates and work with newly elected lawmakers.
The next phase of volunteering will be going ahead and doing voter ID to ID all the Democrats in the area so that the next time that we have an election and we're trying to remind people to vote, we know who the Democrats are to remind them to vote.
We kept Missouri red, but that's just the beginning. You have to make sure those you put into office are still living up to the ideals they ran on.
And of course, like most of us, both parties are still anxiously waiting to see who will win the presidential race. In other news, a woman is dead after a crash involving a Joplin School District utility van. No passengers were in the van. It happened yesterday morning near Joplin's 20th Street Bridge, close to the high school. Police say 31-year-old Lauren Safley of Joplin was killed when her car crossed the center line and hit the van head on. The passenger in her car and the driver of the van were both taken to the hospital. Authorities say her passenger is in critical condition. Authorities in Jefferson City, Missouri are investigating multiple shootings that happened outside of a community center. Police say several people were hurt in the Wednesday afternoon incident. One person was shot in the leg, another in the stomach. Several cars were also damaged. Lincoln University police are helping with the investigation. Newton County, Missouri reports 2 more COVID-19 related deaths, bringing their total to 35. Officials say it was a woman in her 60s and a man in his 70s. The city of Joplin is reporting its 37th COVID-19 related death. They say it was an 86-year-old man. That's a look at our top news stories coming up this half hour on the KOAM Morning News. We'll have the story of how an Ohio man went from a family of 1 to a family of 6. Plus, the United Kingdom becomes the latest European country to re-enter a lockdown. We'll have the latest. But first, it's 5:37.
Sunny skies and temperatures all the way into the 70s once again. No winds to really fight today. And Future Track giving us an idea that all that cloud cover we had yesterday gets a thing of the past. A little bit forms from the southwest there Friday morning. But we remain dry and in the 70s on Friday, 70s on Saturday, 70s on Sunday. Now Monday into Tuesday, thunderstorm activity and a little bit of a cold front that's going to take us from that string of 70s down to 50s for the middle of next week. We'll be back with World Watch right after this.
Topping World Watch, television networks around the world are glued to the U.S. presidential election and waiting anxiously like the rest of us for the results. CBS's Ian Lee reports from London.
Commentators around the world filled the airways.
Good evening. It's the election the whole world is watching.
With predictions about the U.S. presidential election. In every language, you could sense the uncertainty. Many Europeans are surprised the results didn't come straight away.
A wee bit anticlimactic waking up and there's no result after all the build-up.
Just very sad, just like shocked that it's so close.
Underscoring how pivotal the world sees the U.S. election, the hashtags Trump, Biden, and U.S. elections 2020 are trending across Europe and around the globe. A presidential election doesn't just determine who will lead the U.S. For America's allies, it selects their partner for the next 4 years.
The UK-US relationship is in great shape, and we're confident that it will go from strength to strength.
While America's rivals like China, Iran, and Russia also have an interest in how the results play out and what relations will look like going forward. Ian Lee, CBS News, London.
Many European media outlets are covering the U.S. election as though it's their own national election, shelling out money for new studios for the big event. Eta has been downgraded to a tropical depression, but it brought with it heavy rains to Central America. The storm made landfall in Nicaragua on Tuesday as a Category 4 hurricane. And even though it has lowered in intensity, it can still cause significant damage through flooding and landslides. So far, Eta has destroyed home roofs, as well as knocked over trees and power lines. Affected areas can expect up to 3 feet of rain until Eta subsides. Folks across England embrace their last night of freedom as the country now enters another COVID-19 lockdown. In London, crowds of people flocked to bars and restaurants Wednesday evening, their last chance to enjoy a social outing for a while. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson is enforcing a second national lockdown starting today, going until at least December 2nd. All non-essential businesses must shutter their doors, and bars and restaurants can only offer takeout options. People living up their last night have emotions ranging from optimism to fear.
For me, it was just making the most of the last night I can be able to give back to my community and have a night out. You know, I've got so many friends that work in hospitality, and I think like my heart is absolutely breaking for them that they're not going to have a job. So I think it's make the most of it, enjoy our last night out before we tuck her out.
The United Kingdom recently surpassed the 1 million mark for positive coronavirus cases. Government officials say the data shows a second lockdown is the best way to help flatten the curve. Thai Airways plans to feature in-flight spirituality in a very different way. The airline will fly a one-off flight dubbed the Thai Magical Flying Experience campaign over some of Thailand's holiest Buddhist religious sites. Passengers will be reciting mantras along the way. The sightseeing flight to nowhere will last for 3 hours and is scheduled to take off November 30th. Thai Airways said in a statement that the flight is intended to fall under the government's plan to boost domestic tourism in the country. That's a look at some of your biggest headlines from around the world. Let's toss it over to Michael for our Something to Talk About.
Thank you, Tanya. This morning on the KOAM News Now Facebook page and our morning Insta poll, President Trump's campaign suggesting it may ask for a recount in Wisconsin, and state law allows it if the margin is within 1% with the candidate covering the costs. Our question to you is, should there be election recounts in battleground states? We'll begin with Dave Sorick. Dave writes, yes, within 1% should require an under review, just like scoring a touchdown in the NFL. Too much at stake not to do so, but just like in the NFL, get it done quickly. No need to have to endure more ads in the meantime. Ashley Young Alexander says, absolutely, recount them. God will bring out the truth. And Guy Hansen says secretaries of states and officials other than the legislators have no right to change existing laws. Ballots must be postmarked by Election Day. They must have a valid signature, etc. With tensions higher than they have ever been in a historically contentious election, the impetus for fraud is also very high. We shall wait and see. Got time for one more here. Cliff Sinclair says, I think most states automatically do a recount if there is only a 1% margin of victory. I'm pretty sure that's the law in Wisconsin. Yeah, I'm sure you had some, Cliff, that say that's got to be within half of 1%. Yeah, we get 50 states. I bet you we run into about 50 different laws as far as who pays, what the percentage is, and whatnot. But thank you for pointing that out. All right, on our Insta poll, simple question. It's a yes, no. Should the election recounts be there election recounts in the battleground states? Right now, it's overwhelming. 77% of you say yes, there should be. It's going to be open all morning. Go to KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. News you need to know before you head out the door right after this.
Here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. The race for the White House is still too close to call as vote counting continues in several key states. The Trump campaign is preparing for legal challenges while the president's path to re-election narrows. Joe Biden is projected to win 2 more battleground states, Wisconsin and Michigan. That puts the former vice president within striking distance of the 270 electoral votes needed to win the presidency. The fire marshal investigates a house explosion in Berry County that injured 5 people. Authorities say 7 people were inside when this Washburn, Missouri home exploded yesterday. 2 adults and 3 children suffered burns and were taken to the hospital. According to the Washburn fire chief, house appliances were powered by propane and could be the cause of the explosion. A woman is dead after a crash involving a Joplin school district utility van. No passengers were in the van. It happened yesterday morning near Joplin's 20th Street Bridge, close to the high school. Police say 31-year-old Lauren Safley of Joplin was killed when her car crossed the center line and hit the van head-on. The passenger in her car and the driver of the van were both taken to the hospital. Authorities say her passenger is in critical condition. And a Joplin woman who was accused of abandoning her husband's corpse in a freezer has lost a bid to get the body back. A judge dismissed Barbara Waters' lawsuit that sought to recover her husband's body and some documents that were taken during the investigation. The suit was dismissed without prejudice due to the plaintiff's Waters' quote, failure to respond to court directives. That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
Get outside and enjoy some Thursday fresh air and sunshine and marvelous temperatures, and know that you're going to be able to do so without the wind trying to blow you into Friday. Finally calm that down and just let it come in at 5 to 10 miles per hour compared to those 30-mile-an-hour gusts that we've had for the past 2 days. All the way up into the mid-70s. A little bit of cloud cover develops here overnight, but we'll still call it mostly clear with very mild temps and manage to hang in the 50s. Keep on pushing those 70s up there through the weekend. Got a little development coming here Monday into Tuesday, though. Thunderstorm activity followed by a cold front. We're going to go from the 70s all the way down to the 50s for the middle of next week. Of course, you can always find the latest on the Skywatch weather app.
A single man adopts not 2 but 5 siblings. Robert Carter, a former foster child himself, wanted to make sure all 5 children got the opportunity to grow up together. Amber Janeth has more on this man and his now full house of kids.
Laughs, smiles, and pure joy overfilled the Hamilton County Probate Court today as parents expanded their families, making their adoptions official. Robert Carter is now the father to this clan of 5.
I'm relieved, I guess, because I tried to go through this process before and it didn't work out, but I'm just happy that now it's over and I'm their dad for the rest of their life and that they know they'll never have to go through what they went through again.
In December of 2019, Carter began fostering Robert Jr., Giovanni, and Keontae, then later learned that the 3 brothers also had 2 sisters, Mariana and Michaela, in the foster system. He says that they had been separated for 6 months.
We met up for visits, and all the kids were crying. This is like today, the picture of the day they all seen each other after 6 months for the first time. And they were all boo-hoo crying, didn't want to leave each other. And in that moment, that's when I knew, like, okay, I have to adopt all 5 to keep them all together.
Carter tells us that he also grew up in foster care, so he knew too well the pain of siblings being separated.
My mom got 9 kids, and I didn't see my youngest again. He was 2. I didn't see him again until he was 16. So for me going through that, I know how important it is for them to see each other, be around each other. And when I had my boys before I got the girls, that's all they talked about with their sisters.
So he worked hard to get a bigger house and today made it official, adopting all 5 siblings. Stacy Barton, who is an adoption case manager, says after seeing this family together, she knows this union was meant to be.
I have never had a single father adopt 5 children. I've had married couples who've adopted 6 or 7, so this was a unique experience. Children need families, and it's just today is an opportunity for Mr. Carter to show the community that he can do it and others can too.
What a great story. So happy for that family. All right, what you got for us, Michael?
All right, if you at that morning, what am I trying to say? Routine. If your morning routine involves Facebook. I was going to say if you habitually go to Facebook, and I'm like, that's not right. That's not what I'm looking for. If your morning routine includes Facebook, you can go to @MichaelHayslip, KOAM. That's just a quick video, same one you find on your Skywatch weather app right there. Easy enough. I'll try to keep it to about 45 seconds for you. All right, now for the KOAM News Now, something to talk about on the Facebook page. Our question to you, should there be recounts in battleground states? Why or why not? Randy Joe, I think Randy's in it for the entertainment value of the chaos with the Stephen Colbert. This is going to be a disaster. Kenny Kimmel says if there's a legitimate reason to believe the initial results are in question, just one recount, and then if you're still whining about it, you're too big of a baby to be president anyway. Rick Norton says, yes, there should be recounts in these states. I agree with Guy. We must wait and see. God bless this great nation. Chad Newby says, yes, recount them. And Robbie Schultz says, absolutely. Robbie says, the integrity of our elections and voting practices have been tarnished. Government needs to make a national standard for voting practices, require ID and signatures in every state. And, excuse me, Eugene Stockton says, yes, either side should as far as the recount. If it looks like something suspicious is going on, it's one thing. If you have proof, then it should definitely Not sure it will help the outcome because whatever was done is done. Our elections have been hijacked by the corrupt and highest bidders. Eugene says, I trust nothing about our elections or media. As far as our KOAM News Now Instapoll goes this morning, still sitting up, just bumped up right there as soon as I popped the poll up. 80% saying yes, should be recounts in those battleground states. Only 20% saying no. They've still got time to make your voice heard. Go to KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. That's KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. We'll be right back after this. Our forecast setting up to bring us a beautiful Thursday. Temperatures going to make it up into the 70s, a whole bunch of sunshine. All that cloud cover we had from yesterday, it's now comfortably moved out to the east and never did have any rain in it anyway. You'll notice that bottom panel right there, sunny and dry. Now, for the past several days, we've been saying sunny, dry, and windy. Now, luckily, we don't have to fight that wind today. It's not going to be too bad at all, just 5-10 miles per hour. Keep the 70s into the weekend. Got a cold front coming for next week. Thunderstorms in between Monday and Tuesday, all the way down to the 50s by Wednesday. And more KOAM Morning News next.
Americans remain on the edge of their seats as the presidential vote count continues into the morning. We'll have the latest. Plus a look at which candidate is favored by 4 state counties and details on a deadly head-on crash involving a Joplin school utility vehicle.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 6 a.m. I'm Tanya Bach. Coming up this half hour, what you need to know about surprise medical bills during the pandemic. And in the wake of a nail-biting presidential race, states like Wisconsin are already preparing for a recount. For something to talk about, we want to know whether or not you think there should be a recount. But first, a check on your forecast.
Little sunlight trying to creep off there on the eastern horizon outside of Television City. It's going to be a gorgeous Thursday morning from the Freeman Health System sky camera. Temperatures right at 54 degrees in the wind. Single digits, we'll take it. 53 in Carthage, 46 in Independence, and 48 in Fort Scott and Nevada. Sunrise at 6:47 for the kiddos on the bus stop forecast, and not a worry in the world as they head off to class, as we'll have the 60s by 9 o'clock. Very light cloud cover throughout a little bit of southeast Kansas and northeast Oklahoma, southwest Missouri staying on the extremely clear side. 70s once again, let the warm temperatures keep rolling. About 10 degrees above where we'd normally be for early November, and we just keep that pace all the way into the weekend. Monday into Tuesday, that's kind of what I'm already eyeballing, because that's going to bring us not only thunderstorm activity, look at those temperatures, especially that Tuesday temperature. Bottom 65, Tuesday's high 65. What does that mean? Hello, cold front.
There you go.
Yeah, so that's what we were talking about. Was it yesterday at noon we were talking about that?
Oh, man. And then 33, oh, man. Well, it's not the weekend yet, so.
No. You let me be the harbinger and the dude who's like glass half empty, and I worry about that. I want everybody watching right now, you go enjoy 70 and sunny. It's going to be gorgeous.
Yeah, if you want to do something outside, do it this weekend.
Gorgeous. Yeah,
don't be like me and plan
Don't
for
do
next
anything
weekend.
next weekend, folks.
Man, I didn't pick the date.
Tell them the joke now. Tell them the joke.
Okay, whenever I plan a camping trip, the weather gets nasty. That's just downright. Our scouts are going camping on the 14th, and it's going to get cold. We've had this stretch of nice, dry, warm weather.
I don't even use weather maps when you plan a camping trip. I just go ahead and fill out my extended 7-day. I'm like, it's going to be nasty.
Cold, rainy. Yeah. Well, you know what? We've got a few days to change it, so I'm just going to keep my fingers crossed.
Okay.
Hope for the best.
I'm hoping for you as well.
And wish that it was this weekend instead. All right, thanks, Michael. Well, the race for the White House is still too close to call as vote counting continues in several key states. The Trump campaign is preparing for legal challenges while the president's path to re-election narrows. Joe Biden is projected to win 2 more battleground states, Wisconsin and Michigan. And that puts the former vice president within striking distance of the 270 electoral votes needed to win the presidency. North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Georgia are still considered toss-ups. Arizona and Nevada are leaning Democratic. Every county in our area favored President Trump. In this list, the counties with the highest percentage vote for the president are at the top. President Trump received more than 80% of the vote in 4 counties in our viewing area. Those were Barton County, McDonald County, Wilson County, and Woodson County. The highest former Vice President Biden reached in any area county was 39% of the vote, and that was in Labette County. In Crawford County, Biden had 38%. While counting is still going on in some states across the nation, local officials say it could be some time before we have a definitive winner. KOAM's Chris Warner has more.
In a typical presidential election, we typically have a good idea of who the winner will be that night. But this year, we didn't. Jasper County Clerk Charlie Davis says the only other time that happened was in the 2000 election between George Bush and Al Gore. He says this one could take a bit longer to decide.
The thing about this election is I don't think it's going to be decided in a few days. I think it's going to be decided in weeks or months because I'm sure that there's going to be some court challenges that may potentially go up to the Supreme Court.
In our election Instapoll, we asked you, how confident are you that votes will be counted properly nationwide? Well, 63% of you said you weren't confident, while only 26% said you were. So we went to Mercy Park in Joplin to see how residents feel.
When you get one vote that's in Arizona and you call it for, another candidate, it just doesn't make sense. I don't understand that, how that could happen. So I just don't trust it.
Yes, I think they will. I think there may be some discrepancies, but for the most part, I think they will be accurate.
I would say I'm 90% assured that they will be. With our automated process that's in effect, I think it should and could work.
Davis says he feels that people have confidence in local vote counting.
Talking to the people that have come here and voted absentee, because we voted almost 7,000 people in person absentee, and people were excited. People were really energized to saying, so it goes into the machine immediately. It's like, absolutely. And they felt that their vote actually counted.
In Joplin and Carthage, Chris Warner, KOAM News.
Well, to keep up on the latest national numbers in the race for the presidency, you can visit our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. Just click the link at the top of the page. Crawford County, Kansas voters decide who would be sheriff. Incumbent Danny Smith defeated challenger J.J. Carlinger by more than 1,500 votes. Smith first took office in April of 2019 after Dan Peake retired midterm. Now he's looking forward to working for the next 4 years.
I just want to continue what we've done for the next 4 years and leave a positive impact on the community. That's our job. And like I said, we have a lot of good programs that we've done just in the last year and a half. And I just want to be able to continue to do that. And the next 4 years, I'm excited to see what we can do.
Ottawa County also had a sheriff's race. David Dean defeated incumbent Jeremy Floyd by more than 2,000 votes. An escaped inmate is caught in Lamar, Missouri, and officials credit alert citizens. Tuesday evening, Christian Myers escaped from custody while at the Cedar County Memorial Hospital in El Dorado Springs. 2 people at a Casey's convenience store in Lamar recognized Myers at the store. There was a social media post with Myers' picture. Myers was arrested before he left the store. A woman is dead after a crash involving a Joplin School District utility van. No passengers were in the van, and it happened yesterday morning near Joplin's 20th Street Bridge, close to the high school. Police say 31-year-old Lauren Safley of Joplin was killed when her car crossed the center line and hit the van head-on. The passenger in her car and the driver of the van were both taken to the hospital. Authorities say her passenger is in critical condition. Missouri Southern's making sure students know all about the careers available to them in the art world. Yesterday, that was done through a Business of Art symposium. Business and visual arts professionals presented insight into the business end of art careers.
It's one thing to kind of get lost in your studio making things and making a mess, but there's also the polished professional side that they have to present themselves with.
The symposium was made available free of charge on Zoom for students and the general public. It's 6:07.
And 6:47 is going to be official sunrise here, so we're 40 minutes away. It's going to be sunny and dry today. South wind not too bad. I just stepped outside and enjoyed this sight right here. It's a live look outside of Television City and what's going to be a gorgeous, gorgeous Thursday start and roll the 70s into the weekend. Thunderstorms and a cold front. That's not until next week. Enjoy what remains of these 70s.
Enjoy it, that's for sure. That's a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News, Jesse brings us another Med Day Thursday, plus the latest on nationwide efforts to contain the coronavirus and how Branson is gearing up for the holiday season. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back. In Money Watch this morning, stock rose the day after Election Day. On Wednesday, the Dow added 367 points. The Nasdaq jumped 430. S&P 500 gained 74, while the presidential race and a number of Senate seats are still up in the air. Investors appeared happy with the lack of a blue wave. They split Congress with a Democratic House and Republican Senate with limited president's policy options that could rattle the markets. On a more local level, voters in 4 states approved measures legalizing recreational marijuana for adults 21 and older. Medical marijuana won approval in Mississippi. In Florida, the state minimum wage will gradually increase to $15 an hour by the year 2026. And in California, voters rejected an initiative to make Uber and Lyft drivers employees who receive benefits instead of independent contractors. 350,000 Ford Explorers are under recall. Select vehicles from 2013 to 2017 have problems with the rear suspension that can limit steering control. The auto giant says it is aware of the issue that has led to at least 13 reported accidents and 6 injuries. Earlier this year, Ford recalled the 2020 Explorer and other cars due to an electrical malfunction with the rear view camera. Holiday season officially kicks off in Branson. But as Jacob Blount reports, the start of the holiday season could mean the beginning of winter weather, and the city is already preparing for it.
So today is really all about the drivers and giving them the opportunity to go out on their routes and look for any hazards or obstacles that they might encounter while the road conditions are favorable rather than when it's snowing.
Benjamin Stabo is the operations manager for Branson's Public Works. His team spent the day training and preparing for severe winter weather. Stabo says when winter storms hit, the city's 13 snowplows will head to their designated routes, covering 250 miles of roadway. But he says most of their work comes before the storm even arrives.
We've gotten really into pre-treating using salt brine mixtures and beet juice, as well as calcium chloride mixtures. And that just gives us the ability to get out ahead of the weather and get a layer down so that snow and ice doesn't stick to the roadways.
And as Branson Public Works is preparing to get rid of ice on the roads, Rich Yackey of Holidays on Ice is busy creating an ice skating rink for the holidays.
We have a big chiller. It's not here yet. It'll be here tomorrow. We bring the temperature down of our matting down to 0 degrees, spray water on it, make ice.
Yackey has been creating ice skating rinks since 2014. He says he originally planned to build this ice rink in Washington.
COVID shut the contract down. We gave up on the season. Then I Google searched, other Christmas towns, and these guys called me back up, and I flew out here. I said, yeah, this is really cool. So this is magical little village. So
that's it for Money Watch. Now here's Michael with our Something to Talk About.
Thank you, Tanya. On the KOAM News Now Facebook page and our morning Insta poll, the Trump campaign suggesting it may ask for a recount in Wisconsin, and state law allows for it if the margin is within 1%. With the candidate covering the cost. And our question to you, should there be recounts in battleground states? Michelle Pacini says, I just wish people would fact check information before sharing on Facebook. For a recount, sure, why not? And the people, no matter what side, after second count, need to accept it and move on. Michelle says she is sick of the drama. Morning, America. Love you, Mama. Is that morning, Michelle? Joe April Potter with a big yes. Brent Smith right behind. Yes as well. Tony Hodge Sr. says absolutely. I'm just going to throw this out there. It's not over until the electoral votes in December because they don't have to vote the way people do. Good point, Tony. We actually saw that happen in 2016. Neil Coleman says, yeah, when they have more votes than people. And Kathy Scholes says yes as well. Should have meant what I just said about Tony's. We actually had some electoral college voters not vote the way that their states did, is what I meant. Not that didn't play really too much of a role. All right, Insta poll question. Should there be election recounts in battleground states? Overwhelmingly, it's 85% saying yes, only 15% saying no. We've seen the yeses just incrementally grow throughout the course of the show. Let us know what you think. Go to KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. Let's come back to Midday Thursday right after this.
COVID-19 can provide some interesting medical bills as far as hospitals go. This morning we are joined by Claire Cruising, who's a spokesperson with Coalition Against Surprise Medical Billing. And Claire, thank you for joining us this morning. Can you explain, when we talk about medical billing for COVID-19, what are we referring to?
So one of the issues that we've been really focused on over the course of the pandemic is making sure that patients who are either facing COVID treatment or in need of testing have access to those services. And thankfully, our members, as well as Congress, made clear that anyone seeking COVID testing or treatment would have affordable access to those services. But what we are increasingly concerned about is actually those patients who may have delayed care during the pandemic. And are now going back to their providers or scheduling those elective procedures and face the likelihood of a surprise bill at a time when everyone is still in recovery mode from this pandemic.
So why is this an issue that matters to you? Of course, making sure that people aren't permanently financially impacted by something like COVID-19 diagnoses. That's important, but do you have a personal connection to this cause? What got you into this?
So I do have a personal connection. I have seen a lot of my family members, either those who have cancer. In my case, I've had a cousin recently who passed away from cancer, and she did face extreme and significant charges. And when you are sick, the last thing that you need to be worrying about or even can wrap your head around is how are you going to pay for your care. And fortunately, for her, those charges were covered, but there's so many millions of Americans that don't have those charges covered, especially if there's limits on the number of hospitals or providers that are in their community today.
So what's the first step? Where should people go if they're looking for resources or looking for more information on how to tackle something like this, especially if they're dealing with it themselves?
Yeah, if you are dealing with it yourself, if you have received a surprise bill, I would encourage you to call your doctor or provider who issued it. Again, there's potentially ways that they might be able to negotiate, or if it was a charge made in error, remove it from your bill. One of the things that we've seen quite a lot is hospitals taking legal action against patients who can't pay those bills. And if you call and hopefully maybe figure out a solution, that potentially can help save you hundreds of thousands of dollars. At the same time, though, we strongly encourage everyone to contact their member of Congress and let them know that they need to take action to protect against these charges forever. And again, the only way we're going to do that is if we pass surprise billing legislation now. And it has to happen in Washington and in Congress. And to do so, we got to do it today.
Well, Claire, thank you so much for sharing this information with us. We're going to have more information on our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. Just head to our morning show page, and we'll be right back on the KOAM Morning News after this.
Topping Health Watch this morning, there have been more than 48 million known cases of COVID-19 globally, and that's according to data from Johns Hopkins University. England started another national lockdown on Thursday, and Italy is reimposing some restrictions on domestic travel and issuing a curfew. Those actions are not being taken in the U.S., despite the number of cases and deaths continuing to rise and showing no sign of easing. John Lawrence reports.
Despite President Donald Trump's repeated claim that the coronavirus would one day disappear, it hasn't yet.
Make no mistake, this pandemic isn't over, not by a long shot. And it's not enough for us to just know more. We have to act differently.
A report from the White House Coronavirus Task Force's warning states that there is a continued increase in cases, hospitalizations, and fatalities nationally, spreading southward from the coldest climates as the population moves indoors and cases increase exponentially.
This is an absolute killer, and we have got to stay on our toes. We've got to wear a mask. I mean, how big a deal is this? when it really, really gets right down to it.
North Dakota has the highest number of cases per capita in the U.S., but most states are seeing an increase in cases, including Kansas.
Wichita has two major hospitals, Ascension Via Christi and Wesley Medical Center, have 0 ICU beds available.
And Illinois.
Compared to just last week, every single one of our 11 regions has seen an increase in the average number of people going into the hospital every day with COVID-19.
But some health experts say it's too late to develop a national testing strategy. I'm John Lawrence reporting.
There were at least 97,000 new cases and 1,043 reported deaths in the U.S. on Wednesday. Waiting for election results can be stressful and require patience, and we spoke with a Webb City kindergarten teacher about how she teaches her students to practice patience. She says it's all about going back to basics, taking deep breaths, distracting yourself with something else, and even just getting up and walking around to stimulate the neurons in your brain. Practicing patience can help relieve feelings of frustration, anger, or stress.
We have become a society that we get things immediate, and it's fantastic to have all that technology, but in the real world we still have to wait our turn and we still have to practice that patience, and as adults it's important for us to model that to our kids.
You can find more tips on practicing patience on our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. That's a look at some of today's top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News.
Check out this gorgeous start outside of Television City. We are in store for a glorious Thursday with temperatures that are going to make it into the 70s. Whole bunch of sunshine, all that cloud cover from yesterday. It's a thing of the past. Still going to be dry, but at least not as windy as what it has been past couple of days. Make it up around 75. 73, 75, it'd be a little bit warmer down to the south than what we see to the north. But look at this, string of 70s takes us all the way into Monday. Now pay attention to that Tuesday into Wednesday. That's an indicator of a cold front that's going to drop us down. We'll be back right after this.
Americans remain on the edge of their seats as the presidential vote count continues into the morning. We'll have the latest. Plus a look at which candidate is favored by 4 state counties and details on a deadly head-on crash involving a Joplin school utility vehicle.
The 4 states most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 6:30. I'm Tanya Bach. Coming up this half hour, competing protests break out amid the delayed election results. We'll have the latest and something to talk about on the KOAM News Now Facebook page. We're asking whether or not you think there should be a recount in the Battleground states. We also invite you to participate in our Insta poll. Just visit KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. But first, a check on your forecast.
Gorgeous start. That's a live look outside of Television City. Now, past couple of days, we've been watching the American flag right there take off from south to north. But it's nice and calm on this Thursday morning. Here's a look from the skies beginning to lighten over the Freeman Health System sky camera in Joplin. A very comfortable 54 degrees. Humidity already dropping though. 51 in Lamar, 48 in Neodesha, and how about 50 in both Monette and Cassville. Officially sunrise about 16 minutes away. We'll call it 6:47 over Joplin with a whole bunch of sunny skies because that cloud cover we had from yesterday has now moved off to the south. Up into the 70s for about the third consecutive day here. That's where we're going to top out. Great early November weather, and we'll roll that all the way through the weekend. Big developments going to be from Monday into Tuesday. Number one, thunderstorm activity begins next week, followed by a cold front that drops us into the 50s by Wednesday, and cool temperatures there. So every possible reason I can give you to get out and enjoy the 70s that are left up until Sunday.
All right. Sounds like we're in store for the great rest of the week and weekend.
It'll just be great today.
We'll worry about next week.
It'll be great today to be out and not get blown over. I mean, that's going to be the key factor.
Yeah.
That's why today's going to be so great.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, thanks, Michael. Well, the race for the White House is still too close to call as vote counting continues in several key states. The Trump campaign is preparing for legal challenges while the president's path to re-election narrows. Joe Biden is projected to win 2 more battleground states, Wisconsin and Michigan. And that puts the former vice president within striking distance of the 270 electoral votes needed to win the presidency. North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Georgia are still considered toss-ups. Arizona and Nevada are leaning Democratic. Well, every county in our area favored President Trump. In this list, the counties with the highest percentage vote for the president are at the top. President Trump received more than 80% of the vote in 4 counties in our viewing area, and those were Barton County, McDonald County, Wilson County, and Woodson County. The highest former Vice President Biden reached in any area county was 39% of the vote, and that was in Labette County. In Crawford County, Biden had 38%. A former public school teacher in Kansas is making history as the state's first transgender lawmaker. Democrat Stephanie Byers beat Republican Cindy Howerton Tuesday night. She'll represent the 86th district in the Kansas legislature, which includes portions of South Wichita. Byers, who is of Native American descent, says she's grateful for those who voted for her.
You know, it's an affirmation on humanity, the fact that we were able to do this, that the people of House District 86 elected me. You know, they voted for me, and they were the ones that chose to not let my gender identity become an issue.
The new state lawmaker said she wants people to know that she is ready to make a difference. Byers says she plans to push for Medicaid expansion in Kansas. A woman is dead after a crash involving a Joplin School District utility van. No passengers were in the van. It happened yesterday morning near Joplin's 20th Street Bridge, close to the high school. Police say 31-year-old Lauren Safley of Joplin was killed when her car crossed the center line and hit the van head-on. Passenger in her car and the driver of the van were both taken to the hospital. Authorities say her passenger is in critical condition. A 39-year-old Broken Arrow, Oklahoma man is dead after a crash in Neosho County, Kansas. Highway Patrol says Jacob Abercrombie was traveling on U-169, drifted off the road, then overcorrected, overturned, came to a stop in a field. Another crash in Neosho County, Kansas. The Highway Patrol says 67-year-old Michael Drake of Buffalo, Kansas was on 160th Road when he collided with a vehicle going the opposite direction. Fire marshal investigates a house explosion in Berry County that injured 5 people. Authorities say 7 people were inside when this Washburn, Missouri home exploded yesterday. 2 adults and 3 children suffered burns and were taken to the hospital. According to the Washburn fire chief, house appliances were powered by propane. Could be the cause of the explosion. Russ Moreland, the superintendent of the Monad School District, has passed away unexpectedly. This happened yesterday. The assistant superintendent says Moreland was a valued mentor, colleague, and friend. Joplin woman who was accused of abandoning her husband's corpse has lost a bid to get the body back. A judge dismissed Barbara Waters' lawsuit that sought to recover her husband's body and some documents that were taken during the investigation. The suit was dismissed without prejudice due to the plaintiff Waters' quote, failure to respond to court directives. In December 2019, prosecutors charged Waters with abandonment of a corpse after police discovered her husband's body in a freezer in the couple's home months after his death. Waters' case was ultimately dismissed when a Jasper County judge ruled the evidence did not prove that Waters intended to abandon her husband's body. We now have a few more details in the case of Leora Hardy, a Joplin teen who went missing and was later found safe in Wisconsin. Leora's dad says she is back home in Joplin. Also, the police chief in the Wisconsin town says she was found, says officers found her and reported it to Joplin police. Previously, Joplin police said Leora turned herself in. And more details are expected to be released today. The Federal Highway Administration is doling out more than $1 million in grants for trail development, and Duquesne, Missouri is getting a slice. The town is getting more than $96,000 for the development of the Duquesne Memorial Trail.
Well, I'm very excited about this, and just for the city of Duquesne. I mean, I know that's going to be a huge part of their development. They're going to be able to host a variety of different opportunities for people to actually get together.
City of Cassville is also getting a grant, more than $53,000 for improvements at the South Park Trail. Great. That's a look at our top news stories. Coming up this half hour on the KOAM Morning News, election protest.
Demonstrators taking to the streets across America saying they want to be sure everyone's votes are counted. I'm Rick Leventhal in Los Angeles. I'll tell you where things are heating up ahead.
Plus, should there be recounts in battleground states? We let you weigh in our Something to Talk About, but first, it's 6:37.
Fresh air forecast might be an understatement with the gorgeous Thursday that we have in store. A whole lot of sunshine, not going to have to worry about the wind. It is going to be a little bit dry, but because the wind has died a little bit, we'll go from an elevated fire risk to a limited fire risk today. Continue the 70s on through the weekend. Then from Monday into Tuesday, first come the thunderstorms, then comes the cold front. We'll be back with Nation Watch right after this.
Topping Nation Watch this morning, demonstrators are taking to the streets across America. They're calling for everyone's votes to be counted as the decision over the occupant of the Oval Office hangs in the balance. Rick Leventhal has the story.
President Trump and his challenger, former Vice President Joe Biden, locked in a tight battle for the White House. And while a handful of states are still counting ballots, Americans anxiously await the results.
We should all continue to be patient while this constitutional process unfolds.
Some are taking to the streets across America pushing for every vote to be counted, just after President Trump announced a lawsuit seeking to stop the count of absentee ballots in Michigan. Demonstrators in Detroit pounded on doors and windows, demanding to be let inside where votes are being tabulated.
You guys are here to uphold the law, correct? Including the election?
Across the city, the message was different.
We're not going to let them stop until every single vote is counted.
The results in New York are not being contested. Its 29 electoral votes went to Biden. But protesters there demanded counts continue across the nation after the president declared he believed he'd won re-election.
We are not going to allow the President of the United States to compel his followers to stop the vote count.
Pennsylvania is examining a mountain of uncounted ballots, including more than 3 million absentee and mail-ins. The president's campaign has filed multiple legal challenges, suggesting Republican poll watchers were prevented from keeping a close eye on the process to prevent fraud. Also arguing ballots arriving late should be ignored.
Democrats know that the only way that they could win this election is to cheat in Pennsylvania.
The Trump campaign is also challenging results in Wisconsin and Nevada, further delaying the announcement of a winner. Well, the U.S. saw a new daily record of 103,000 COVID-19 infections on Wednesday. That's according to the COVID Tracking Project. The virus had taken more than 233,000 lives so far. The San Francisco 49ers shut down their practice facility after wide receiver Kendrick Bourne tested positive for the coronavirus. 49ers are scheduled to play the Green Bay Packers tonight. Eta, once a major hurricane, is now pulling away from Central America, where it killed at least 3 people. Eta is now expected to gain strength before hitting Cuba and South Florida as a tropical storm, possibly on Sunday. That's a look at today's top national stories. Let's check back in with Michael for our Morning Talker.
Thank you, Tanya. On the KOAM News Now Facebook page and our morning Insta poll, President Trump's campaign suggesting it may ask for a recount in Wisconsin. Excuse me. State law does allow for this if the margin is within 1%. Candidate covers those costs. So we're asking whether or not you think there should be recounts in battleground states like Wisconsin. We'll pick up our comments with Kathy Scholes. Kathy, with a big yes. Dell Evans, he says no, though. Dell says every election, one side or the other, always whines and wants a recount. They don't get it. Why should it be allowed now? Sue Fortner-Nells, however, she says yes. And Danny Watson says he sees several fouls, goes with the yes, and says Trump 2020. Glenn Ritchie says, as long as I can remember, there have been recounts if deemed necessary. As in, the vote was close enough that the margin of error could cause a 1%, 2% of the total votes, not because of supposed wrongdoing, but because things can happen. Those poll workers are working extra hard to get those votes counted. Mistakes can happen. And Glenn, thank you for bringing up the poll workers and all the hard work that they put in there. And it's not perfect. Sherry Davis says, yes, there should be a recount. Here's something else to think of. The same machines that counted the votes for the senators and other congressional on the same ballot had the presidential nominees. But somehow the presidential votes wasn't counted at that time. She says, strange, isn't it? Wouldn't that make you question if a senator or other person won in their state too? As far as the Insta poll goes this morning, you can go to KOAMnewsnow.com/vote to let us know what you think. It's been pretty overwhelming so far. 79% of the respondents saying yes, there should be recounts in those battleground states. Once again, KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. Let's come back, celebrate birthdays and anniversaries right after this.
We take this time to honor today's four-state hero, Captain Emile Capone, who served in the United States Army from 1994 to 1950, a Medal of Honor and Gold Star recipient. Capone served as an ambulance driver during World War II and in the Korean War. Capone made the ultimate sacrifice for his country, dying in a North Korean POW camp. Before joining the military, the Wichita native was a Catholic priest. Pope John Paul II would later declare him a servant of God, the first stage in the path of sainthood. We are proud to salute Emile Capone, our four-state hero.
Birthday list begins with Caleb Thaddeus Fent getting ready to blow out that candle as he celebrates the big number 2. Happy birthday, Caleb in Carthage.
All right, and happy birthday wishes coming from Uncle Paul and Aunt Ashley to Carson McBride. Look at that little cowboy there, turning 3 years old. Happy birthday, Carson.
Kinsey Weirtham, a 7th birthday, and she is a first grader at good old Frank Layden Elementary. And Kinsey, a happy birthday from Mimi and Poppy as you celebrate that number 7 in the NAC.
All right, Levi Adam turning
Hey,
11 years
kid?
old this year. What a great picture there of Levi celebrating in Pittsburgh.
Happy birthday, Levi. Mason Crozier. Oh, look at that. He's only 12. I guess he just turned 12. He's probably 11 when he got that. Happy birthday, Mason in Arcadia.
All right, we've got Chelsea Ludwig celebrating birthday number 15 this year in Parsons. Hope it's a great one, Chelsea.
Allie Lawrence celebrating her 17th in Joplin. A little Eagle Pride right there on the volleyball court. Happy birthday, Allie. May I?
Sure.
May I?
Sure.
Lisa Grills celebrating her 60th birthday. Lisa, from all of us here at KOAM, a very, very happy birthday to you, ma'am.
There's no way she's 60. She looks too young for that. Happy birthday, Lisa. And a happy birthday going out to Julie Coover Kent in Galesburg from your daughter and son-in-law. Wishing you a happy 72nd birthday.
What a great picture right there. That's tremendous. I love that. Craig and Lindsay Lee, two boys celebrating an anniversary, their 4th. Congratulations to Craig and Lindsay Lee. It's been a while since I've seen them.
Oh, beautiful family picture.
Yeah, happy anniversary, guys.
All right, here's a big one. Happy 65th anniversary. Congrats going out to the Shaws. Carl and Doris Shaw celebrating 65 years of wedded bliss. That's awesome.
And Carla Karsten. Wait, I love the title. I don't know if Carla has imposed this title upon herself. I don't know this. But this is great. She's the fill-in to the backup receptionist.
I love it.
That's great. Happy birthday, Miss Carla.
We love seeing you. All right, Corrine Cole celebrating birthday number 50 this year in Pitcher, Oklahoma. Billy Miles turning 57 years old down in Miami. And Carol Denham celebrating a birthday today as well. Carol is a 3rd grade teacher at Southeast Elementary.
Thank you, Carol, for everything that you've done for those kiddos, getting us through this year. Calvin and Gina Kendall, they are celebrating their 28th anniversary. Congratulations to the Kendalls and a celebration for them in Erie. Happy birthday, happy anniversary to all. Here's where you send them into. You either can go to komnewsnow.com/birthdays, or if you decide to go the email route, make sure it's plural, birthdays with an S, at komtv.com. And for our marvelous Will York, who puts together our birthday lists and puts your little pictures and your anniversaries on there, make sure you signify exactly what date you want to celebrate it on. Now, here's Tanya Bach with a very important birthday announcement.
That's right. You can be a part of the KOAM Birthday Club by going to our website and signing up. And once you do, you'll get special deals from local businesses. Go to KOAMnewsnow.com. Sign up for the KOAM Birthday Club today.
I'll get to our comments here in just a little second. I was looking at sunrise there because it's absolutely gorgeous. All right, let's roll some additional comments here before we wrap it up as far as recounts go. Jeannie Schrader, doing better, says yes, there should be recounts. Gotcha, Jeannie. Diane Houston has a list here of what she calls our discrepancies. And she says, you don't think we're watching a live coup happen? They aren't very good at hiding it. It's incredibly obvious to a logical person. Jenny, he said, yes, there should be recounts. And Jason Scott says, I'm still trying to figure out how a state can be called for Biden when the state count had Trump ahead. Can anyone explain that? One more look at the Insta poll that we have this morning, where 78% of you said, yes, there should be election recounts in the battleground states. Once again, you go to KOAMnewsnow.com/vote, and we'll have this poll open throughout the duration of the morning. Tanya?
All right, here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. The race for the White House is still too close to call as vote counting continues in several key states. The Trump campaign is preparing for legal challenges while the president's path to re-election narrows. Joe Biden is projected to win 2 more battleground states, Wisconsin and Michigan. That puts the former vice president within striking distance of the 270 electoral votes needed to win the presidency. Fire marshal investigates a house explosion in Barry County that injured 5 people. Authorities say 7 people were inside when this Washburn, Missouri home exploded yesterday. 2 adults and 3 children suffered burns and were taken to the hospital. According to the Washburn fire chief, house appliances were powered by propane, could be the cause of the explosion. A woman is dead after a crash involving a Joplin school district utility van. No passengers were in the van. It happened yesterday morning near Joplin's 20th Street Bridge close to the high school. Police say 31-year-old Lauren Safley of Joplin was killed when her car crossed the center line and hit the van head on. The passenger in her car and the driver of the van were both taken to the hospital. Authorities say her passenger is in critical condition. And a Joplin woman who was accused of abandoning her husband's corpse in a freezer has lost a bid to get the body back. A judge dismissed Barbara Waters' lawsuit that sought to recover her husband's body and some documents that were taken during the investigation. The suit was dismissed without prejudice due to the plaintiff Waters' quote, failure to respond to court directives. That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
What a gorgeous Thursday we're in store for. Temperatures in the mid-70s, no wind, considerable wind to try to fight, and temperatures just going to be well above average once again. Overnight, perfect, mild, mid to high 50s, and then we set up for additional beautiful weekend weather. Remember, Monday into Tuesday, that's our next development when we have thunderstorm activity followed by a pretty good looking cold front. What you got today at noon?
Coming up today at noon, we're going to be making a pretty tasty recipe. I think it might be a tuna melt in the Mr. Food
That does
kitchen.
sound kind of good right
Yeah.
now. Let's check in on 8 to 2. We haven't done that lately because now that we're back up into the water, we're headed toward Cuba, and next up will be South Florida. And a little shortwave trough hanging over North Texas. It's going to be closed off. It'll move east, won't affect us. Low pressure coming in from the Pacific Northwest that will bring us thunderstorms next week. Not that I'm looking ahead or anything.
In the meantime, enjoy this while it lasts.
All right, flip on over to us. Join us over on Fox 14. KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 continues. We'll have more Facebook comments, weather update, and of course, the Insta poll continues to roll on as we ask you about election recounts. Should we have any additional states called during that time? Of course, Tanya will bring you the latest. Want you to have a great, safe, wonderful Thursday. We'll do this all again tomorrow morning.
And we're going to do it again today at noon.